The Non-Traditional Veterinarian podcast. Over the last few weeks, I've been sharing with you what tests I have done on my personal dog and why, and the value behind it to also let you know why it can be valuable for your dog. And I get it because there's a lot of tests out there, and I think we are programmed to think about wellness blood work, which is absolutely important. Absolutely. What I'm not saying is any of these tests override that. What I am saying is that some of these tests can help maybe clue us into why your dog always has elevated liver enzymes, or if they have kidney disease, how can we help support them? Is there anything else going on in their body that could distract their body from being able to overcome whatever it is that they are dealing with? Or can we make it easier? Can we get them to a place where there is like a harmony, a homeostasis, where they are at a nice status quo that we want them on? And so this week, I want to talk to you about why I did intolerance testing on my dog, how I did the test, what are intolerances, are they the same as allergies, and what I hope to do with this information regarding my own pup, because I use this a lot for my patients. And so I want to start with what intolerances are. And sometimes, and I too am absolutely raising my hand that I've sometimes used the word allergies because I've found that some pet parents are like, what's an intolerance? Or they maybe think it's the same thing as an allergy. And it's more like a sensitivity. And so food intolerances, and this can go into food or environmental or contact. So we're going to use food in this instance because we love talking nutrition around here, but also know that this absolutely can relate to environmental contact as well. And so it's not an immune mediated reaction. It is often sometimes dose dependent or exposure dependent. It also sometimes is delayed. It's maybe not instant. As someone with food allergies myself, with me, it is pretty instant when it comes to dairy, or at least it has been. I've tried really, really hard to not have any cross-contamination or exposure. And so with intolerances, it can be delayed and it can be driven by a lot of things, digestive stress, which is why it's really important for us to find a way that aligns with you and aligns with your pet to feed them the least processed type of food, to figure out what is going on with their gut as well. Their microbiome, is it imbalanced? Are there enzyme deficiencies? Are there chronic exposures? Is there inflammation coming from another source? These can all contribute and be like the perfect recipe. Like when you're baking that cake, maybe someone in your family bakes really, really good cakes. And you're like, it's just so perfect when they do it. And when I try and recreate it, it's like the perfect recipe when all these things can be happening. And what that's not meant to do is to put you in a downward spiral. What it is to let you know that there can be multiple things. And I think rather than that causing overwhelm, it can create clarity that, hey, if I handle this one thing that and it doesn't work the way I want, maybe there's more to the story here. So I actually think it gives us a lot more freedom. And so there can be typical signs that you may see in your pets, whether it's chronic itching, whether that is the ears, the paws, the face, inconsistent stools, inconsistent appetite, there's gas, there's bloating, maybe there's tear staining, anal gland issues, behavior changes, signs of subtle inflammation. Now, allergies tend to be an immune system overreaction. Like the immune system is overstimulated. It is often driven by IgE, and it can be an immediate or a rapid response. Think of me with my food allergy. It can cause hives, it can cause swelling, it can cause vomiting, it can cause severe itching, it can cause stool issues. It can be confirmed with a variety of very conventional tests. However, the intolerance is not typically IgE driven. It is usually more subtle, more chronic inflammation. There absolutely can be immunoglobulins involved, though. I don't want to say that there's not, but it's often like cumulative. It's often from kind of that example I give of like a snowflake turns into a snowball. That snowball rolls down the hill, it gets bigger, and it can turn into an avalanche. And so that's why sometimes dogs will test quote unquote negative on allergy panels, but still struggle, or pets will test negative, quote unquote, but still have these issues. And so the test I commonly use in practice and a test that I did on my dog utilized fur. And why I like that is it's not invasive. It can be done very easily. It can actually be done in your home. And fur is very, very important. Not only does it make our pets look really cute and allow us to snuggle with them, it can hold a lot of information. It can hold mineral signatures, so it can tell us about their minerals and their vitamins. Also, it tells us the bioenergetics going on. It can tell us about metabolic waste markers, stress responses from the body. So, as much as we think as their fur is maybe protective to keep them warm, or depending on what type of breed they are, if they have a double layer coat, and of course, to look cute and sometimes be like certain colors of breeds or patterns, there's a lot of biology to it. When the body is chronically stressed, whether that is from food, environment, or contact triggers, that stress pattern can be detected through frequency-based testing. And that is where the hair is utilized. So we can look at reactivity patterns. I love patterns. I love to look at patterns because, yes, sometimes an isolated incident can be representative, but sometimes it is just that in that case. In fact, a few weeks ago, a client of mine, we were trying to determine recipe ingredients for her pet, and so everything is personalized. And she gave him some blueberries, and she said he'd vomited them up. And we know that this pup has been having digestive issues, and I get it. When you find that link, you're like, okay, is there correlation here? I'm scared to give it again. I understand. I also don't like rocking the boat, but also it's really valuable to know, and was that an isolated incident or is there a pattern here? And just because something is marked as not being intolerant doesn't mean that it sits well with that pet. It just lets us know that this may not be a good fit right now. And so this allows us to have a non-invasive tool to identify any stress responses, not immune anaphylaxis, but how is the body reacting? Do I believe that sometimes if these intolerances are left unregulated, that potentially could develop to allergies? I don't think that's irrational to think that. And so it's the body letting you know, like, hey, it's like raising its hand. Hey, I don't like this. This isn't a good fit for me right now. And it doesn't mean that that thing is bad, right? It just means it's not a good fit for that pet right now. And so, yes, it is absolutely a recognized method. Bioenergetic and frequency-based testing has been used in various integrative medical models for decades. And while it's not always considered conventional in a Western-minded practice or diagnostic tool, many practitioners use it as a screening tool to help guide elimination risks or trials. And so the key is that this is not a life sentence, it's a roadmap. It is not that maybe your pet can never have, like for my dog, and I'm actually going to read off his intolerances, turkey for the rest of his life. It is telling us to eliminate it right now, to observe, and consider reintroducing in the future. Now, when that is pet specific. That to me is very, very pet specific because it depends on what are we doing to mitigate this. Are we just removing it, which is very helpful? Or are we digging deeper to see what else is going on in the body that we can help support? So maybe we can bring down this intolerance. And so if the signs improve and then return with reintroduction, we have confirmation that yes, not only is this an intolerance, but it's not a fit right now. Now, I want to stop right there is we can introduce it and then maybe you're thinking, well, all these intolerances, I never even saw an issue with my pet. Yeah, sometimes it can be the scratching of the face, the ears, the paws, the anal gland issues, the gas, the bloating, the changes in appetite, the various things that I listed at the beginning of this podcast. And it is also possible that this is causing inflammation at a much smaller level, and not smaller as insignificant, but smaller where we just can't see it. It's not manifesting itself outward just yet, or not outwardly enough that we're connecting the pattern. And so that's where inflammation happens. And inflammation can drive so much disease. And so that's the body's way of raising its hand, in my opinion, to say, like, hey, like this is not jiving with me. This is kind of causing some inflammation or causing some disruption in my flow. And so I don't do well with this right now. And so it's a clinical validation. And so it's important to really know that chronic low grade intolerances can absolutely lead to increased gut permeability, aka leaky gut. That's a slang that I feel like a lot of people are familiar with. It can lower short chain fatty acid production, which we want short chain fatty acids to be produced. And if we don't have them properly produced, then the gut is not being supported in a way that it needs so that we can manage the inflammation, we can manage the immune response, we can really help protect that gut barrier, that gut lining. It can absolutely disrupt the gut microbiome. Now, to what degree? I think it depends on what are we intolerant to, how intolerant are we, and what's our exposure to them. And are we being exposed to those and other intolerances? So it's very fluid, which I think gives us a lot of room to influence our pet's health. It can increase histamine load. It can drive chronic inflammation. It can worsen anxiety. It can exacerbate pain like arthritis. It can exacerbate unideal, is that even a word? Not ideal weight management. It can slow healing. And so it's really important that you know that you can't just over supplement your way out of a diet that is irritating your dog or your cat daily. You can remove the stressor and then the body can regulate. It can get back to like homeostasis. However, if you keep feeding it or keep exposing to it, then you might be fighting an upstream battle. Now, with that, sometimes you can't control it. And I'll tell clients, hey, this isn't to make you feel like you have to live in a bubble with your pet, but it is to give you clarity. So that way, when your pet is scratching nonstop or getting these sores or these stool issues, we look at everything. What is environmental? What is contact? What is food? What is in supplements? What is in treats? What can you control? And what is it a little hard to control? And how can we help support them? For example, I have several clients who have pets that are highly intolerant to oak trees. You can't go and just like knock them all down. But what it does is it gives you that clarity. So that way, when you know when things are flaring up, okay, I've got a somewhat recent intolerance test. I've got the food under control, whether it is supplements and treats and food. And I know that there's some environmental stuff. So I know that, depending on where you're at, I'm recording this February 2026. So this will likely be released February or March 2026, is that as spring comes and the pollen starts to drop, you know exactly what your pet can be intolerant to, and you can start supporting them ahead of time. It doesn't mean that they're not going to scratch. It doesn't mean that they're not going to itch. It doesn't mean that they're not going to get gassy or bloated or any of these things, but it allows you to have a tool in your toolbox to support them. And so I did my dog's intolerance and I had no idea what to expect. I believe I shared about this on a previous podcast that he gets a variety of different food, variety of flavors, variety of types of food. I like there being variety in his diet. I don't like him just eating, and I did it for some time. I did it. I raised my hand. I absolutely did it. Gave him the same food all the time. And I stopped. I stopped. I wish I would have done it earlier, but when you know better, you can do better. And he will often rotate between pork and beef and no more turkey. He used to do turkey and then lamb for a little while. And I noticed that the lamb I'd given a break and I went back to it and I was like, gosh, he started scratching a lot all of a sudden. And I felt like there was a correlation to the lamb. And I was like, is he intolerant to lamb all of a sudden? And I think pet parents will often think, well, he's eaten this forever. How can he be intolerant? It's like that's exactly how it can happen. Is the body just decides, yeah, we're not cool with this anymore. That's how my dairy allergy developed. I'd eaten dairy my whole life. And back in 2019, I was diagnosed with a dairy allergy, and the doctor, bless his heart, who disregarded my presumptions of, hey, I'm pretty sure I have a dairy allergy based on the patterns that I'm noticing. I'd like to have confirmation because I don't want to avoid dairy if I don't need to, but if I need to, I want to know. And after some very professional debating back and forth, I tested myself, or he tested me, and definitely allergic to dairy. It was a whole situation. And he was like, here are your EpiPens. You need to carry these at all times. And so I really embodied wanting to know, like, what is going on with my dog? Even though he's eaten this before, doesn't mean things can change like me. And so his was done through hair, bioenergetics, and it was really, really interesting. And I'm actually going to pull it up so I can discuss what those are because some of them are irrelevant, like smoked bacon. He's never even had, here's the thing, he's never had smoked bacon. Now he's had bacon flavored stuff, but he's never had smoked bacon. Bison, I don't know that he's ever had bison. Carp, he's never had carp. And so some of these things may be things they've never had before. Chicken eggs, he's intolerant to chorizo, to crab, fermented pickle, mackerel, mahi, sea bass, trout, tuna, and turkey. So the turkey was probably the one that I was like most bummed about. He doesn't get much seafood. In fact, it's really interesting to see crab, flatfish, mackerel, mahi, sea bass, trout, tuna, carp. Really interesting. And just because he hasn't had it doesn't mean that he will not be intolerant to it. So it was really eye-opening. He is intolerant to banana chips, blackberry, watermelon. The watermelon, highly intolerant, and that puppy loves watermelon. So that's off the list for right now. I know that I may be able to get it back into him. Also, shiitake mushrooms, alfalfa sprouts. So those are no good for him. Butter, which is fine because I don't have regular butter in my household because of my allergy. Quinoa, rye, pinto beans. Additional ingredients: calcitrol, sodium benzenate, additives, monk fruit extract, balsamic vinegar. Also, environmental. He's allergic to birds. Well, good, we don't have any in this household. He is intolerant, I'm sorry, not allergic, intolerant. He is intolerant to cadmium, to mercury, to down, I'm guessing down feathers, dust mites, which I'm like, Lord, I do my best to clean around the house, but that just takes it to a whole new level. Pesticides, I don't use pesticides in my house or on my lawn or anything. Mosquitoes, which doesn't surprise me because when he gets bit by mosquitoes, this puppy welts up like crazy. Wool, tobacco smoke, not a problem. Detergents, which is very interesting. I use all clean detergents. That's very interesting. Sunflower seeds, canola oil, which is fine. We don't do canola oil in this house. And nutmeg. Very interesting. And why this is interesting is that, yes, I'm not feeding my dog nutmeg or feeding him some of these things, but could they be preservatives in a food? Could they be in treats or supplements? So it's really important to look at all these things, to know, are we not supporting them in a way that they need right now? Can we calm everything down by removing these intolerances? I've had several pets that we remove intolerances and things got better. A dog who stopped coughing, a dog whose coat is shinier, a dog who is less reactive when the mailman comes to the door. I mean, I have story after story, and why it is so important. Can we bring down the inflammation? And while it's not a true immune response like an allergy, but can we not kind of like poke the bear with the immune system here? And so this isn't used to replace diagnostics. It's used to shortening the guessing game. It is used to help personalize diets and eliminate possible triggers that may be happening underneath the surface. Maybe they're not manifesting, there's no known skin or GI issues. But I'll tell you what, if we keep feeding these intolerances, there's a really good chance that that's going to happen down the road. And so if whether this is your first time listening to this podcast or watching on YouTube, I'm Dr. Bamonte. I've been a veterinarian for about 12 years, and I really embody taking a personalized approach, getting to the root cause of it. And if you're like, this is exactly what I've been looking for my pet, maybe you listened to the previous episodes, maybe this is your first one, I would invite you to scroll down. And if you are local in the Tampa Bay area of Florida, there's an in-home page on my website that you can fill out a form. Basically, let us know your pet's name, what services you're interested in, where you're located, and we can try and get you set up for an in-home, holistic, integrative, functional medicine vet visit. If you're not local, very likely you're in one of the states that I am licensed in, and we can meet for a virtual nutrition consult. We can talk about food. Maybe have that safe space where you can talk these things out. And I find that sometimes pet parents are just wanting someone to sit down and talk to them undivided attention on this one topic. And that is what we go over. And because this test is not used to reduce unnecessary novel protein cycling or to give structure to overwhelm pet parents. It's a tool. It is tools in our toolbox. It is a resource that you can have even more influence over your pet's life. It's not magic. It's not a replacement for medicine. It is data to guide decisions. Because you've probably heard me say data, when you have more data, you can make more decisions. And I don't know about you, but I really like making intentional, right decisions. Do you agree? And so food allergies, and again, this can be, as you can tell, this can be environmental. Did I even go over the trees that he has? Did I even say that? Um, maybe there were no trees. Um, I think there was trees somewhere listed. But it can be environmental, it can be food, it can be contact. And so food or environmental or contact intolerances are a slow burn, where an allergy is more like an explosion. And slow burns are what quietly age our pets. They are what's going on behind the scenes. And so, if you would like more help with this when it comes to your pet's health, to know exactly how to help them live better so they can live longer, I look forward to meeting and getting to know you and your pet. I'll see you in the next episode where we talk about my dog's microbiome, gut health, and what I found out, and what that can mean for you and your pets.